That.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It seems like, as usual, with Nephew. So this will be the kickoff meeting for the SIG automation workload cluster subproject. Sorry, that's a mouthful, isn't it? I will share my tab here. Let me make sure. Yeah. How does that look? Can you see?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
All right, good. So I've created this document. I'll make sure there's a link at the Slack, but I'll share it on the chat just to make sure. Here we go. So yeah, well, let's start. The agenda for today, I thought, would be just a quick introduction for everybody who is involved. And I hope you have edit access to this document and can start just adding your information here to the team. Everybody who volunteered to actually participate, please just add your name, affiliation, and a link to your GitHub user. Everybody is welcome anyway, even if you're not committed to actually participate, don't worry about it. You're welcome to come to these meetings and voice your opinion on what we're doing, set priorities, make proposals, etc. So I'll start maybe, introducing myself, I guess, as the first person on the list. So I think everybody knows me, but I'm Tal. I'm work at Google. Previously worked at Red Hat when the Nephew's project started. And I will be leading this effort in this group. I function here as a coordinator, right? Where I'm not going to dictate what we're actually going to do. At the end of the day, we're all volunteers here and we do what we think is best for the project. But we're going to try to work together and coordinate our efforts, not only in this sub-project, but with the other sub-projects and with the other SIGs, of course. Anybody else want to give a quick introduction if they're participating in this team? Vish, go ahead.
Yeah, so in the survey, I did put my name for this, the specialization and the release as well. So I do plan to make contributions, at least the unit test related stuff along the way, where I can actually pitch in. I work at Red Hat as well. So, I mean, it's very strange that our paths never occurred across at Red Hat. I wish I'd known about Red Hat. So, yes. Yeah, looking forward to making meaningful impact and contributions. And I will put in my, you need the name and the GitHub handle?
Yeah, just at the top of the document there under team.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll help us all just communicate and need to give permissions to repositories, etc. Bala, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Tal. Sorry, Vish, your hands are still on. Are you done?
Yes, I'll remove my hand. I don't know why you stopped there.
Cool, thank you. Hi, Tal. This is Bala. I'm a Red Hatter as well. Tal, no Tal very well. So as Vish, and some of you already know because I've been working with a Nephew community. It feels like a team already. So Tal, I also signed up for it. I had to figure out in what capacity. I'm working in different groups, but at the very minimum, I'll be helping you with the planning stuff, setting up the sprint board and stuff, which I already did. If you want to please take a look for the sprint one, and I will be setting it up. I'll be working with you to set up that board and the other things. I again, from the technical perspective, I signed up for 2 groups other than the release one. So here probably I will have to work with you. What is the meaningful way to contribute technically to in what capacity here?
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'll say we're all, not all, but some of us are participating definitely in numerous sub-projects, and we're interested in many of them, at least going to the meetings.
Yeah.
At least I'm not treating any commitment as a big promise right at this point. I think as we in the next week or two, I think the scope of every sub-project is becoming clear. I know this sub-project is starting a little bit late, but it's I think people will make their decisions of what to work on. I think I only ask that you notify me, right? So I make sure that the team list on the document is more or less accurate. But you can remove yourself too. It's not a commitment that if you put your name on the hat right now, it doesn't mean that until R1 you're committed to do whatever task we set up here. This is all volunteer based, and it's up to you. So if you feel like you want to shift your focus to another sub project, you can do that, and can remove your name from the team list here, right? So we're still in the formation stage, but I do hope that very soon we'll be able to have a good cadence and people will know exactly what they're working on, right? Because we don't have much time. So thank you, Bala.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah.
Viresh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I work for Capgemini. I have been following the Nepio project since long time when it was coined. So I'm also attending the money meetings, automation and architecture meetings. I would like to contribute for workload subproject. Yeah, that's about me. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you. And welcome on board. And Wim, I think everybody knows you, but if you want to add a few words related to the project.
Yeah, so for me, I'm leading the specialization part. So my goal here is to help review and try to sync as much as possible between the different projects. So I'm willing to review. Probably have not enough bandwidth to contribute much, but happy to review stuff or help people if there are questions or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds terrific. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else want to say something, even if they're not necessarily immediately committed to be part of the team?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, Liam, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Liam Fallon for Ericsson. I'm not. I definitely will contribute somewhere. I'm not entirely sure whether it be here or probably package management. I don't know yet, but it depends how much time I have available. But yeah, just a word as well. I'd be pretty much. This is my first time to use Go, to program in Go and Golang and that stuff. Although I've a long history of work in other languages, so please be gentle with me. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say that that's fine. From my perspective, not contributions can be in terms of reviewing commits, testing out code. Not everybody has to actually own and code.
Yeah, but I do have many decades of experience in developing and designing systems, going back to C, C++, Java. So that's my background.
Well,
yeah,
your experience and willingness to assist are much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you. An, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. I'm trying to get SMF packages up and running. So
thank you. That's very to the point.
Yeah, that's my focus right now. 30+ years of development experience. Last official employment was at Marvell Technology as a distinguished engineer. I left in October, and I'm goofing off right now. So
well, we're glad to have your goofing off time and assistance to our project.
No worries. Thanks.
Thank you. Alexei?
Hey everyone, thanks Tal. I won't put my name in the list here because the reality is I'm not sure I'm going to be able to really do significant contribution. But my goal is to be there, look at how things are going to pan out, are going to evolve in terms of, I'm really interested more from an architecture design standpoint. I like to think that I'm a developer. I used to be, so hopefully I'm going to get back coding some Go. But as Liam said, I'm fairly new to that language. And as for context, I'm also from Red Hat, so I'm Piers from Vish and Bala. and I recognize some of the names here from some of the past life I had in ONAP and Open Daylight. So I look forward to what Nephew is going to accomplish, and hopefully I'll be able to help contribute here and there, but I don't want to have a strong commitment on my shoulders because right now I don't have time dedicated for this at work. So
Totally
thanks for having
understand.
me, and thank you.
Thank you, Alexi.
Just quickly, Tal, can you grant
Yeah.
me access to edit the doc? Thanks.
Oh, I can. Did you send a request for access maybe so I can approve?
Yes, I did. Just now.
Okay. If possible, I'll do it after the meeting. I think I need to log in with my Nephew account to do that.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, thank you. Sure, I will do that. Ganesh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Tal. Thank you. Hi, this is Ganesh from Samsung. I usually attend meetings along with Wim for the package specialization. I'm also specifically interested in some of the directions for this workload cluster. So I'll continuously shadow the work here and see how I can contribute in terms of specifically in terms of deploying it in an environment where with limited connectivity or like certificate issues or limited connectivity areas. I'm looking forward to see if there is a way for me to contribute in those sections. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll talk in a bit about scope, and hopefully we'll find a way for that to fit in. Well, thank you. Welcome. Anybody else want to pipe in and say something?
I think I can do. My name is Denis Alexandrov, so I'm from VMware. I work specifically in the group inside VMware in like service provider and GPU, where we actually testing the same type of product, but from VMware. So I have experience on onboarding 5G core edge, like CNFs, like on various like edge cluster. So like I look forward to actually do some, let's say, proof of concepts or tests, with Nephew. And yeah, I will try to contribute to other repositories, but as many people say here, my Go experience not that great. So I will try to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we're very happy to have you.
Hey, quick question. Are you in the cloud telco BU?
I'm in service provider and HBU, so VMware TCA,
okay.
TCP platform. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was CSBU for a while. CSB. Anyway.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of us have known each other already from other contexts, so it's not surprising. It's a pretty small niche in the industry.
Yeah. But some of my bosses get cranky when I wear T-shirts from other company I used to work at.
I'm not embarrassed. I think I'm wearing a DigitalOcean T-shirt right now. I love everybody. Akash.
Hi everyone. I'm Akash. I'm also from VMware. I'm actually part of the telco BU, and I'm also working with them on package specialization. So great to meet you guys. And so as he pointed out, like we have a very similar product, and this what we are doing in this particular sub project, we have also have a very similar features in the same line. So I'm happy to contribute and work with you guys.
Yeah, that's great. As you know, Google has its own product called TNA that was announced in MWC. There's product from Amazon. Microsoft Azure has a product in this space. So right, the point here is the competitors come together to work on our shared interests, right? And the shared platform. At the end of the day, we're dealing with Kubernetes, right? Which is owned by the community. But yes, welcome. Thanks. So we have two VMware folk. And I think we also have more Google folks. Stephen, do you want to say something? Stephen might be busy.
Oh, hello.
Oh.
Hi, Stephen. I work for Google. I actually don't know what else to say.
Yeah, Stephen and I work very closely together.
Yeah.
Stephen, you're gonna help us bring up SMF, right? Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it in a bit, right? That's definitely part of the work of this group, right? So, well, anybody else want to pipe in and introduce themselves, or are we good? Well, welcome to everyone. So I think I'd like to talk now about the scope of this group, so just to make sure that we're all clear on what this sub-project will actually deal with. And we'll start by saying we all know that release R1 of Nefio is, how shall I say, a bit rushed. The seed code from Google came just last week, right? And I hope you've all seen the introduction. Our focus in R1, the theme for R1 was really getting the shift left approach and philosophy pat down, right? Working with Porch, working with WIM's, package customization, doing all the stuff that's the shift left configuration work that needs to be done. We all know that the workload cluster is less of an emphasis for R1, but there have been a lot of, suggestions and proposals and interest in working, doing some work on the workload cluster that we know needs to be done as well. For R1, there isn't a lot. The scope is pretty focused because we want to make sure just that the R1 release is successful with the themes that we put in place. So the scope, as I understand it, and anybody here can pipe in and say that if they have a different opinion, but it's really divided into two. One is the free 5GC operators, right? This is our use case. We have a POC of them that was part of the Summit code. So that would be owned by our group and really made into something that's maybe more mature and more useful and more fitting with the rest of Nefio code. So that would be one thing that we'll work on. And I have here a link to the the free 5GC operator. So you can see in the document. I'll do it right now and just share it in the chat so that everybody can look at the code even now if they want to. So there we go. So that's one pile of code that we'll own. And, we'll have to discuss what to do with that code, if to rewrite it, if to, yeah, there's some interesting things here. I do know that there's a, Wim, you might, and Stephen, you might tell me where it is, but I know that Orange has done a lot of work in packaging free 5GC operators in Helm. And they're going to do a presentation about that soon. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So Thursday on Vim's
Thursday,
meeting.
8 a.m. This is scheduled. Yeah, Thursday at 8. I gave them my slot. I said to them, please take a slot. So at 8 a.m. they will present.
Okay. Excellent. So I would say that meeting is really important to this group. So we'll record it. Those in this team who can't make it, we'll make sure to have that recording because we want to see how we can use Orange's work. Our whole point is not to duplicate effort, right? So the work that they've done with Helm charts to see how we can use that in our work in packaging free 5GC with an operator, right? And I don't want to jump ahead, but there are ways actually to wrap Helm charts with an operator, right? There's the part of the operator SDK has a pretty nice packager for Helm charts. So you basically have an operator that internally uses the Helm chart and calls Helm. That might be an option for us, right? We'll have to, let's wait until this presentation and see how we can leverage that work. Because again, we don't want to we don't want to duplicate anything, and we want to welcome contributions from everybody in the community. So that's one part of the scope. The other part of the scope, and it's really just the second part of the scope. I really think our scope is just two components. So that's one, the free 5GC operators for further different components. So, and yes, that includes the SMF, right? The second part has to do with Google seed code for what we call the watcher agent, right? The edge watcher. So Nefio R1 uses config sync, right, to pull resources into the edge cluster. And to close that loop, the watcher agent can look at those resources and see their status and update them back in the management cluster. So I hope people got to see the presentations given by Stephen last week to all the SIGs. If not, contact me and I'll send you a link to a video. So yeah, that's another component owned by this group. So it's really those two. Can anybody think of anything else that's in scope that I haven't thought of? Yeah, I think this. Go ahead.
One question, just a question. So as you are talking to the other watcher in the management cluster, this is a push model, right? You're sending status to the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you're exactly correct. Yeah. Right. So config sync is purely pull, and config sync never changes the Git repository, right? It just takes from the Git repository and applies it locally. A very, very simple component. If you saw my workshop from 2 weeks, you saw how it worked. But yes, what's missing there is a way to update the status of the resource in the management cluster, because the management cluster has no idea what happened in the edge cluster, right? Once it goes to a Git porch, has no idea about that status. When you push a package to porch, and you hope that config sync will pull it and do something, but you don't know if it was successful. You don't know if there are other things in the status that need to be updated once the deployment actually happens.
I'm just curious about is any pull model is possible for this line?
Oh, a pull model?
Because the
yes,
Edgewater put the status in some storage registry, and then the management, they pull the relevant data. So that means more loosely coupled. I just observation, that's all.
You're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of opportunities here to design. But the reality of how this happened was that this is seed code from Google that was given only last week.
Okay.
And the design is just a given, right? This is the contribution that Google has given. Absolutely, I would say at some point we really want to stop and accept design suggestions from the community and design it, right? This is a case where the design is just given. And I recognize that it's kind of uncomfortable, but Nefio was kickstarted by Google with some seed code, and Google's approach here is in good faith. It's given to the community, but the community can take it, can throw it away, can redesign it, can repackage it. So absolutely, what you just said is open to debate for sure. The whole design of both config sync and Watcher Agent here is just a given design from Google, right? And when we get to debates over the design, in the future, we'll be happy to share from Google's perspective our own design considerations and why we designed it this way. But at this point, I think the best we can do is just use it. Unless
Vish has his hand up for,
it's not for R1. I understand. It's not R1. Understand. I fully understand. I'm just curious because when I look at the architecture and the scheme, the allowable pull model, that's the Kubernetes what they are aiming for, and out of blue, and then all of a sudden push model happening. That's why I understand R1 perfectly. I understand. Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah. I'll generally say it's the architecture not of Watcher Agent, but really the whole communication with the workload cluster that's done indirectly here via config sync, right? So there's a design that comes here from Google, and it's part of R1, but we're expecting again debates to continue, and I'm not trying to shut up any comment or feedback or criticism from the community in any way, right? All of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vish, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is in reference to your earlier mention about this Thursday having Orange talk about Elm support. Is that more like an information session, or is there any action item coming out of that that's going to affect the R1 scope? Just wanted to be clear to see if it was more information or if it is something that is going to be a scope introduced into R1.
Stephen, do you know more about that, or Wim? Because I was gone last week, so I wasn't part of the
organization. So they brought up the whole 3.5GC. So it's not just purely the Helm, but they brought up the whole thing. So I think their experience are very valuable for us in R1 because they went a complete step further than where we left off with the one summit. So I believe will they influence the scope of R1? No, but their experience is very useful, I think, that we can leverage in order to do R1. So I think the information that we gather there is very, I don't know exactly what they present, but I think it's going to be very beneficial to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
because the reason, I mean, I didn't see anywhere about any Elm implementation scope in R1. Okay, I got your point, Wim. So basically we want to get there. They're more like somebody that we can consult about free 5GC in case we run into issues while they're coding up and stuff like that, right?
Well, the free 5GC Helm charts that they have is how we model our operators after. So the orange pieces are definitely useful. I think from the email, I mean, we'll know more from Thursday, but then from the email, it sounds like they've brought up what we have on the ONE Summit and maybe mix it with the other stuff and even try with UE Ransom. So it seems like it's a pretty comprehensive test. Obviously, it doesn't work, and then we'll learn more.
And they have call, so they even can do call simulations and stuff like that. So they went to the full. My read from the email is that they went to the whole bank. So I think it's very useful what they are going to present to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's information session initially. Okay.
I think they've also used UE Ransom to actually create a complete loop using the core. That is not part of our user case, right? Our user story from SIG1 doesn't include complete edge end-to-end deployment. But again, we're not stopping anybody from contributing components. I mean, even if it's not part of officially the R1 release, but somebody can show actually using Nepio R1 to deploy something and then deploying UE Ransom and creating a complete end-to-end phone call. That would, of course, be wonderful, right? But in our scoping with R1, with the use cases coming from SIG1, we had a very, very defined and limited scope, right?
Just to add to that, either Vim or John said earlier or later last week that the session was scheduled previously, so it's not necessarily impacted R1.
I see. Well,
back from November, got scheduled, and filing is happening.
Well, thanks,
I see.
Sam.
Well, you know, they also, I don't think there's anybody from Orange I don't recognize in the meeting right now. Well, we'll see. You know, we'll find more. We'll find out more on Thursday. And if they're willing to contribute more, if they just want to provide the Helm charts and say use these as reference, that's valuable. If they want to actually work with the community to integrate them into this subproject, that would be even more valuable. So we'll see how far they're willing to contribute, how much resources they really have. Ganesh, did you want to say something?
Yes, Tal, I had a quick question on the scope of installer. I think for the workshop and POC, we have an installer that puts everything together, kind of helps deploying all the components and giving it a demo for the R1. Do we have any such scope? And I don't see any sub-projects or even like SIG2 or SIG3 taking up installer role. So because you have taken this workshop, and I think it was really, really useful, and it put together all the tools, at least the config sync and etc. I thought I'll raise it to you to see what are your thoughts and if there is any plans to do.
So, Tal, can I take that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Ganesh, we have an installer story. Actually, it's in package. It was in the release, and then we moved it to the package, the SIG automation package management, and it's being worked on by Victor. And we have created a subtask there also. There are two things. One is actually creating the installer. As a subtask, there is issue about creating a package for creating a documentation and package for installing the dependencies such as Purge, config sync, those things. So those are being worked on at this point of time.
Right. So I'll maybe emphasize something for people who aren't clear on this. This project here, this team is about things running on the workload cluster, not the creation and the configuration of the workload cluster. In fact, actually, infrastructure management is entirely out of scope for R1. It's a topic that a lot of us have a lot of thoughts about, but we're just not tackling it yet.
And
Yeah, we
Ganesh,
do need some sort of installers for workload clusters, things that needs to be installed when the cluster comes out.
Right.
So that is a legit ask. I think config sync is not automatically installed by itself right now when a cluster is created. So same thing for Watcher agent. We'll need to have something to actually install them. So that's a
Correct.
good question.
But that's under the scope of SIG number 3 of creating the kind of test environment and test bed. At this point, we're just doing. We're only targeting lab environments. We're not targeting production.
That's what I mean. It's actually moved out of SIG3 to SIG package management.
Oh, okay.
Long story short, yes, we have a story on installer, and as it's being worked on as we speak.
Okay.
Victor from Samsung is working on that.
Terrific. It's in good hands. So I did want to, that kind of leads me to another topic, right? Because there's one component where I'm not quite sure where it's going to live. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, I had one question too, actually. So two things, Tal. One is, so in the scope you asked, right? This whole Multis management, where does that come in? I know it's in the realm of workload management. So are we doing anything with that for R1?
I really wanted to do something with that in R1, but I think the feedback I got from most people that there's no time to put it in. Our focus in R1 is really on the shift left approach, and the shift right stuff. Shift right is not really a term, but all the stuff that happens in the workload cluster, as I pointed out, that the scope for workload cluster in R1 is very, very minimal. But there's absolutely under Slack, there's a channel called Discussion Network Management. Here, I'll put a link to it in the chat here. So if you go to this Slack channel under Nefio, we're discussing it, but it's in the realm of discussion, right? It's something that we'll have to wait for R2. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of planning and things that we want to do there. There are people with a lot of experience in it. People worked on the ENO project. I've been working on this topic for 2 years myself. For now, the whole management of network attachment definitions for Multis is happening shift left, right? And Wim can talk about it a lot. You know, we're generating those right now before we're actually creating the deployment package. So it's part of package specialization. So it's done entirely upfront on the shift left approach. We have no creation or management of network attachment definitions for Multis in the workload cluster in R1.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
understood. Thank you. So the second thing is I just put a link there in the chat. Actually, that's sprint 1. That's for all the groups that starts today. This is the link for this particular group. But once I finished the board, I actually took the issues, transfer them into. I mean, look at the scope for the sprint, transfer the issues. Then I look. I mean, it's very aggressive. So we have to see how much of that it's aggressive across the board. I mean, every subgroup. So we have to figure out. Obviously, it's a lot of time. Whether
that's correct.
whether that is possible in this sprint.
Yeah, it's very strict, so we really don't have time for anything else. But I know I keep saying this, but I'm emphasizing it. You know, it doesn't end with R1. We're definitely thinking beyond. The scope is just limited for R1.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Wim.
Yeah, Bala, one thing that I saw that refactored the Edge Watcher code. I think that lives in package specialization, and the persons that signed up to do that is Steven and Aravind.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest. You know, we all know that the Watcher code was just seen by the community last week. We're not expecting everybody in the community to jump in, know this code, learn it, and do it. So a lot of that kind of work, we're going to volunteer from Google, myself, Arvind, and Stephen. We're going to try to do most of it. Of course, we welcome anybody who wants to get involved and learn about it, but we know that it's a lot to expect the community to take this code and run with it very quickly.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
to add
clarify.
to-
I want to clarify because it sits in my SIG, but we didn't do anything with it. And then last week, Stephen and Aravind, and then I thought that you were on holiday, but they said
Well,
they will take care of that part. So I was very happy with it. So I just wanted to
so
share.
this is exactly what I wanted to actually raise, because there are two parts. So this subgroup is about the workload cluster, but it bleeds a little bit into your group, because the watcher, so the watcher agent runs on the workload cluster, but there needs to be a component on the management cluster that it speaks to, a gRPC server that we're pushing the information to.
Yep.
That component has not really been designed or scoped yet. And
that is
it
Edge
makes sense.
Watcher, right?
That's the the Edge Watcher has been contributed as a library, right? So it's not actually a component that's running. The expectation that it will run as part of some sort of server running on the management cluster, at least for
Okay.
R1, right?
Yeah,
It could run anywhere essentially.
Yeah, I know Vishwas raised his hand. What I just want to do, I had one comment on Wim's observation. Yeah, Wim, I saw that. I mean, it looks like we have subgroups and different SIGs as well. But what I'm seeing the pattern is, okay, from the execution perspective, we have these subgroups and this SIGs, but from the personal perspective, we are all over. I think that's okay. That's actually a good sign as well.
But in the subgroup, so I mean, last week I spent a bit of time with Stephen and Aravind. So they basically said they will take on the work. So, and I don't think they are assigned to anything else, at least in my part. So I think we are split in terms of activity, in terms of ownership.
So we'll definitely take care of it, and then if anyone is interested, let us know.
Yeah.
But it is the Edge Watcher technically belongs to Vim subgroup, and then the Watcher agent technically belongs to Tal subgroup. So
yeah,
it is kind of spread across. But I mean, Arvin and I and Tal will be primarily making sure that this works for an R1 requirements. Even though I know there's a lot of design discussions around it, and we'll do that post R1. But then if anyone's interested, please let us know.
Just to jump in, I am interested in learning. So if you guys are having discussion or code walkthrough or whatever, please include me.
Yeah, we can host one of those too. Yes.
Thanks.
So I'll say, some people on just sent me a message. It's like, when are we working, right? We can start right now. Don't worry about creating issues, right? The repositories that I linked in the document in the document are ones we should start with. So any experience that you can start getting at learning that code and understanding it would be great. And as I said, the Thursday presentation will be very important, I think, from Orange, because what I want to do for next week's meeting is actually a design meeting where we design these components. So designing the free5gc operators, and designing the watcher agent plus watcher server component, right? So we have to move quickly, right? So from next week, we really have to take a design and start dividing it into actual tasks that we can do. Does that make sense? Go ahead on.
Vish is next, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, your hand was up.
So,
sorry.
So to your comment, I mean, I understand we are going to be short on time now, where it's going to be all Google working on some of those things. But where and when possible, if you're able to break out tasks, that somebody can come in and contribute, something to keep in mind, so that the community, this cross collaboration happening.
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
Keep that in mind. I know that is your intention.
The goal is to create those tasks. I have not done so yet. Sorry, everybody. I was on vacation last week, so this sub-project maybe started a week later than the others. Our scope is very focused, so I think this is a simpler sub-project than the other sub-projects, right? In a way, we have the seed code for the watcher agent that we're not expecting is going to change much by R1. The really open issue right now is what to do with the free5gc operators. So yes. I think I really want to wait until Thursday before making any decisions. So that's why I delayed deciding any design or creating issues today, because depending on what we find out on Thursday, we might get contributions already with Helm charts, and then we'll have to discuss together how to incorporate them in the design. if that makes sense, right? I think that's a blocker. I would call that a blocker. So let's wait my suggestion for Thursday before we actually delve into a design. Or does anybody have a different opinion? Do you think we should actually create it today?
I'm gonna jump in and say something about that. I'm
Sure.
looking forward to Orange contribution or presentation, but I've started back in November playing with SMF, and I've been dabbling in it ever since. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I've attended Vim and your session on Porsche and config and the details on get repos, get NAD, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's just me, but I need help integrating those pieces into some sort of flow, because there are different snippets of code, but I don't understand the overall design. And I'm hoping that we can, if not today, get to it this week before the design, to get some straw man design down
Yeah,
before the next
so-
session.
So yeah, there's always, I'm trying to balance being very specific about the sub-projects versus the bigger picture. So I will tell you that Arvind and I have been working on a more big picture document, doing exactly what you said, connecting the whole flow together. So I know there was my workshop, which I hope filled in some gaps, but my workshop was also specific to Porch and config sync and purposely didn't talk about Nefio, but there are many questions about how all of that fits into a complete flow. So actually, Arvind and I have been working on this for a while, and we're hoping to give some sort of succinct as possible presentation about how all the pieces work together. So you can kind of imagine how SMF flows from beginning to end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Because
I
I'm
agree
on
with
the
you.
hook.
There's a lot of specific questions here, right? We're
I'm on
rushing
the
ahead
hook
a bit.
for- Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that I really like to know what I'm working on. Much of R1, let's be honest, has been a little bit of hand waving. We're kind of rushing forward with code that we already have, and we're kind of making it up as we're going along. It's maybe the nature of the beast a little bit, but we have to balance these things, because every time you want to step back and start designing and thinking about the complete flow, we waste a lot of time that could be done working, right? Not say waste time, but we're postponing the work done towards R1. So yeah, what can I say?
No,
I don't
it's-
think anybody is happy with how everything is going towards R1. We're rushing.
no,
We're not
it's-
always making things clearly, right?
More specifically, what I for myself, what I need is, do you know that sequence diagram that Arvind presented for UPF? I'm on a hook to do the same thing for SMF, but I have
okay, yeah.
questions. So I need the overall flow to help me frame SMF, right?
So I
that's-
think that would,
and then that
actually
translates
could
to
be
code.
great. Yeah, that might be a great thing to put up for the agenda for next week for this project. Actually, to break SMF into pieces and do the same thing, exactly as you said, the same thing Arvind did with UPF to do it with SMF, and we can do it together, maybe.
Cool. Yeah.
Are you
maybe
doing
the
that?
flow
You and
diagram
I
should
want to
be a
doing that
nice-
presentation on Wednesday, right? I thought that's what the I think that's the plan right now,
Which
right?
you are you talking about?
No,
Actually,
Actually, I was going to add
I
to
was
your
talking
point.
about
And
that presentation. Yeah.
let Stephen finish. Sorry, Stephen. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, it's just a plug right now. So my understanding is you and Arwen are planning to do that on the SIG2 regular meetings on Wednesday. Is that right? For Tao?
Who's you? Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh,
The workflow presentation,
So I can
the
take
flow
that.
presentation.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Arvind, are we ready to do it on Wednesday?
No. So there are two things, right? There is one which is specifically R1 focused. This is basically the life of deployment, which kind of fits in the sequence of how things will work specifically for R1. I think Tal, the one you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, is more beyond R1 and beyond, right? Like, which is, hey, how do we see if you're fitting in the with the rest of the world and seeing how things will work, right? So that's one piece which we need.
Yeah. No. I was talking specifically about R1. Yeah.
Oh, R1 is that flow. At least the plan was to just go through the flow of how. I think we had multiple discussions with John and Wim, and we also discussed yesterday, right? Like, so that one we want to do it sooner. At least things that cover the package management and
specialization aspects of it. Workload cluster, that part we will say TBD, right? Like we just know that there needs to be an operator that does something. So that part we won't delve too much, but we'll just at least high level cover the specialization and package management part of it, and see how the whole flow works.
Excellent.
That part I think the plan is to do tomorrow.
We'll do that on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and Ron, while you see that presentation, think in your head through SMF and ask questions regarding SMF. For
yeah. One quick question for Arvind. The I've been asking this with Vim's group, but will it be a CRD that be given to workloads automation, and from there we're gonna run the operator against it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, right, the main idea is twofold, right? Like one is because each of these sub-projects are working and they have different meetings, right? We wanted to create like a coherent document that kind of talks through the flow and kind of puts package management, specialization, and workload where you can see it in like one place. Okay, how will the flow fit? That's one. And the second is, what is the contract between these sub-projects? Like, hey, for example, package management gives this particular package to package specialization, and then package specialization does something and gives something off to workload. What is that something and how it's customized is what we are going to look tomorrow in the presentation.
Yes, because I've been playing with the free 5GC operator code, and I started creating SMF controller or modifying the one that's there. And I ran up into questions like, okay, so what am I operating on, right? Is it a CRD? Is it, what are you, or is it a Docker image I just launched? Like lots of questions at that level. So looking forward.
No, definitely we should discuss. I mean, but of course, this is, I just took an example of UPF as last time, but the same thing can be said for SMF also, I would imagine.
It
should be similar.
Compounding my lack of understanding of the flow is lack of understanding of SMF. So I need a lot of help.
Yeah, I think we all, are the whole focus of a use case has been, only 5G, then only free 5GC. And to be honest, we've mostly focused on UPF. Almost all the examples have been UPF so far. So that really needs to change. This is what this subgroup is for, to finally flesh out those details. So, if Aranj did a lot of work in packaging SMF and we can learn from the configuration values that they put together, that will move us ahead.
But you already going to make to Hans' point about the workflow was some of those actually adding them is going to help us at least understand the code. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Sorry, what was the question?
I mean, you were asking about the flow, right? I was saying that having an understanding of the flow or a document that describes that flow will be useful in understanding the code as well, right? If you were to review them as PRs.
Well, yes and no. So the code has is based off free 5GC operator, and Stephen can add to what I'm saying. And there's some background discussion on Slack, and the feedback was this is free Helm based, blah blah blah, and it's a different approach from what we're doing for R1. And that's where I'm like, okay, so what is the flow for R1? So what am I getting as input on a workload SMF workload automation, so I can operate against that, right? To generate the deployment.
Right, that's exactly right. So again, because we're so focused on shift left, the point is that really much of the work will be done in Wim subproject, right? Because that's where the package specialization, at the end of the day, when we get to the workload cluster, we're supposed to get a CR probably, which I think right now is called UPF deploy. I hope we can change its name, but that's what it is, or there will be
it's called UPF deployment to add to the confusion.
Yeah, I know it's
yeah, so that was changed because we have to make it noun for Kubernetes conventions.
Yeah, well, that's just name change, but keep going, Cal.
Let's talk about CRDs a little bit later, I hope. But the point is, we're going to get some sort of CR, whatever it's named, that has everything that you need for SMF to run at this point, right? Because the shift left approach means that all happens in the management cluster. So at this point, our operator is very straightforward, right? It just needs to stand up the free 5GC SMF using those configuration values, right? So
if I can share this, if I can share the screen really quickly. Is that okay?
Sure. Wait just a second. We have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
I would suggest maybe let's delve into SMF in depth next week. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to show that, there in the code I have right now is like get repos, get NAD. And I'm like, now what? What am I getting against? Right.
So
and I'm not so sure those are workload or package specialization. Does the scope still need to stay in the operator, or is it already populated, shift left, and given?
So yeah, our assumption is that everything is already populated.
Okay, so those, yeah, detail next week.
So, and you were going to talk about code. Is it you were going to show code?
Yeah, but
okay. Could that be done as a PR?
I'm not trying to block you from sharing your screen. So share
no,
ahead.
no, that's fine. I just don't want to. I want to get going. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, can be shared as a PR for everyone to look at? Is that something?
It's not working.
No, it's okay, right? But at least that's how I think.
It has a lot of
can
red.
still be in draft. Anyway, that was my thinking. That way.
Yeah,
if
it's basically broken, and I'm trying to make it work.
Okay, well, we can do that offline on Slack, and maybe you can share some code, and some of us can take a look. Maybe. Does that work?
For $5, yes. No.
All right.
I'll definitely.
But look, so I didn't want to talk about, I didn't write this here in the agenda, but homework, right? Until we actually finalize the design for the free 5GC operators, there's definitely work you can do until our meeting next week, right? Any of you who have time, the people who said they'll be on the team, what we're going to do here mostly in this group is write operators, right? Operators for free 5GC, and work with the watcher agent, which is an operator, right? Running in the workload cluster. So if you've never written an operator before for Kubernetes, this is the week in which I hope you'll have time to learn. I did not prepare any kind of training session or anything like that, but we can definitely do that if there's interest. I've been writing operators for a very long time, and I can, get people on board if you need help. I know for some of you, you're new to Go. It seems that we've been standardizing on using Cube Builder, right? Let me share a quick link to it. But there's a tool called Cube Builder, which is used also by the operator SDK. Cube Builder can help you jumpstart writing an operator in Go specifically, right? You kind of run it, you give it some details, and it spits out a whole bunch of scaffolding code that you can very quickly compile and create the container image that you can deploy on Docker Hub or on Quay and run it on your own Kubernetes cluster. I think being able to write an operator from beginning to end like that could really help you understand how the work process is going to be in this team, right? It's not so trivial, running code on Kubernetes, and especially controller code that interacts with the Kubernetes cluster. So there's definitely a learning curve there. So I'm hoping all of you can use this week, those who don't have the experience to learn. And feel free to reach out to me if you want help in learning this, and I can direct you to resources that will definitely help.
There are a couple of, just to add, there are a couple of good articles actually from Red Hat, because I guess it's Red Hat business to write operators, which show how the flow, how you create that scaffold, what you have to populate, and there are good examples of the code itself, right, of these loops which you run in a reconciler. So,
excellent. Yeah. So why not share them on Slack, and I'll gather them together into our document as kind of useful resources that people can start with, right?
I also once shared the operator SDK. It's also good to share. I will also put that link again. Tom.
Absolutely. Yes.
I know we may not be using SDK to build, and I also understand we may not be building operator from scratch. I think they will be using it's a brownfield development for the community, as far as at least the community goes. But I think having that kind of a knowledge may be helpful. I think Anne has raised her hand. I think Anne, please go ahead.
So the way I learned how to build operators is through Pluralsight website, as well as the Red Hat page documentation. If you have access to Pluralsight, there's a course called Creating Custom Resource Controller and Operators, and it's about 2.5 hours and with demo code. And basically, if you go through that, you get a very good basic of what
Excellent.
the operator package look like and the difference between custom resource definition, controller, and operator, custom controller and operator. And that's what
Excellent.
I've been
Everybody, please send me your links that are useful to you, and I'll gather them together.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be great. And people who are a little bit farther ahead and feel more comfortable, definitely look at the repositories that I linked in the document and start going over the code, right? I'll mention there's another aspect that is more SIG3 related, but all our code has to be testable. We have unit tests, and we're going to have edge tests and integration tests using Prow. So all our code will have to be integrated in that some way. So again, for R1, we're not expecting 100% coverage of everything that we do, but we want to be able at least to plug it into the process for some tests to run, because that will be the basis on which we will build for the future. So it's something to keep in mind, so that this is not only about designing the code to actually implement the features, but we also want to write the code in a way that can integrate with the rest of our release CI/CD pipeline. So that's something we'll work together with SIG number 3 on.
The key there is that other people. Sorry, go ahead.
If you don't mind, yeah. So we need to drop, Tal. We have another meeting. I just wanted to let you know, I pasted the link for the sprint board. Since you are the lead for this subgroup, please take a look at the sprint board and see what you feel about that. Because at some point of time, we need to converge on the execution plan.
Absolutely, yeah. So I was hoping to get to that to start a little bit today, but I think it will happen during this week. I'll start fleshing it out, but of course, everybody is welcome to get on the board and create issues, and we can spend next week maybe sorting.
Issues are there. I just think it may be too much scope for the sprint. So that's the thing. So.
Oh, you mean in terms of actually? So.
Yeah.
Let's talk offline about the sprint organization, because I wasn't here last week, so I know there was some sprint organization. I don't know exactly what happened.
That. I think we need to jump to the other meeting. Thank you so much.
All right, I understand. Well, thank you, everybody. This is, just a start, and we're going to start the actual work very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.